This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on context of the stories, and just generally try to help each other understand all this crazy tech stuff.
Today, Brian Brushwood gives us a personal perspective on the new Pebble watches, and we read something from the mailbag.
I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Jenn Cutter.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. Nvdia held its GTC conference on Tuesday. Here's a rundown of some of the notable announcements from CEO Jensen Huang and colleagues. Nvdia puts on a show. They got tens of thousands of people show up. And there definitely is a theme of robotics going through this stuff. They are pointing ahead to say, yes, we still want to supply your data center full of our chips, but we are ready for your next purchasing wave in the next 5 to 10 years. So first, let's get to those chips. The yearly cadence that they accelerated to is going to continue. They used to put out a new one of these kinds of chips, the data center style chips, every 2 years. Now they're every year. Blackwell Ultra, the next version of the current chips used for running AI models, is coming in the second half of this year. It is designed to improve performance for agentic use and physical uses like robotics and autonomous vehicles. So they are positioning themselves for that. Next on the announcement list is Vera Rubin. Vera Rubin is a combination of the Vera CPU with the Rubin GPU. Rubin will be the next after Blackwell. Vera is NVIDIA's first custom ARM CPU. They've had CPUs in these before, but they were off the shelf. This is based on its own Olympus design, so it's still an ARM instruction set, but they designed it themselves. NVIDIA says it'll be able to do 50 petaflops versus Blackwell's 20. It will be released in the second half of next year, 2026, followed by the Vera Rubin Ultra in 2027. So there's that yearly cadence for you. By the way, 50 petaflops. If you're like, wait, 50 tops, that's what my Copilot... No, not 50 tops, 50 petaflops. And we already know the successor name for Vera Rubin coming in 2028. That will be named after Richard Feynman. They will be Feynman chips. Also, NVIDIA announced PCs, new DGX computers. They haven't had a new one of these in a couple of years. The new ones will run on the Blackwell Ultra chips. The idea is to help developers with inferencing on their desktops. Inferencing is when you use a model versus training it, right? It's not training it, it's running it. And this would let you run large models locally. We always talk about those nanos and those minis that can run locally on a regular PC. These DGX computers with the Blackwell chips can run Llama and DeepSeek locally. The DGX station has a 784 gigabytes of unified memory between the CPU and the GPU, which are on the same main board, an 800 gigabit per second NIC, network information card that can let you create a mini cluster of multiples of these machines. NVIDIA is not making them themselves. They've designed them, but Dell, Lenovo, and HP will make the DGX PCs. And NVIDIA started taking reservation for Project Digits. Remember, they announced that at CES. It's got a new name, though. It's no longer a project. It is DGX Spark. This is the smaller version of the DGX. It'll cost $3,000. And let's move on to networking. Back to the data center, off the desktop. Spectrum X and Quantum X are photonic chips. This is another future technology that NVIDIA is placing a bet on. Photonics uses light, photons, instead of electricity, electrons, to transfer the data. The chips are designed to be used in a data center to connect GPUs. So these are not using photonics in the GPU. This is using photonics in the networking interface cards to reduce consumption by about 3.5 times, reduce power consumption by about 3.5 times. Quantum X chips are expected later this year, Spectrum X chips in 2026. Huang told reporters that photonics just isn't reliable enough yet to outperform copper connections inside of GPUs, but they're still working on that. This is an area where startups like Lightmatter and Celestial have photonic-based GPUs, photonic-based chips, GPUs and CPUs. So keep an eye on them. They are trying to beat NVIDIA to exploiting photonics. A couple more announcements. Dynamo is a free open source inferencing platform for running reasoning models. The idea is that NVIDIA will would like you to not only use its chips, but also use its software to run your data center. This one separates the processing and the generation phase of a large language model to maximize your resources and double the performance. So buy a bunch of Blackwell Ultras, put them in your data center, run Dynamo, and then you can put whatever model you want on there. But Nvidia will take as much of your money as possible. But Dynamo's free and open source, so you don't have to pay for that at least. Isaac GR00T N1 is an actual foundational model that NVIDIA has partnered up with Google DeepMind and Disney Research to develop. It is made specifically for use in robots. So this is them getting ahead of that. It includes an open source physics engine called Newton. That is the Isaac in Isaac GR00T N1. And I imagine Disney's on board because they want to use this in some of their animatronics in Disney parks. NVIDIA pushed robotics and by extension autonomous vehicles by announcing a partnership with GM to add its partnerships with Waymo and Ford. NVIDIA also announced a partnership with Yum Brands. Now, this one doesn't necessarily involve robots, but Yum Brands will be using NVIDIA products to enhance drive-thru and call center operations for its Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut restaurants.
That is a lot of directions all at once.
It's a big conference. This happens with every Google I/O and Apple WWDC. You get so many announcements at once. But the through line on this was yearly cadence for GPUs. We're going to keep making them better and cheaper and more power efficient. And robotics. If you're thinking about robotics, NVIDIA is your hardware provider of the future. So keep an eye on that. But I think what everybody wants to know is, so how do I use AI when I order my tacos?
Yeah, gamers are definitely disappointed to not hear more about, yes, here's a video card for everybody. But the drive-thru stuff, I know that there's tests happening in certain tiny pockets of the US, none up here. How much different is that going to be than somebody saying, hey, what's your reward card? And, would you like to add this to your menu, to your order, I mean?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I went to a Taco Bell within the past couple weeks, drove up and was pleased that I could clearly hear the voice. I had ordered on the app and I gave him my name and it's like, oh, is your order correct on the screen? Great. Pull right on through. When I got to the window, the demeanor of the person operating the drive-thru did not match the demeanor of the drive-thru voice. And I wondered, was that a generated voice? I have no idea whether it was. I don't know that our locations here in Los Angeles have this, but I could see where that could be the kind of thing where you're just doing very simple stuff. Like, I want to order this stuff, or I've ordered the stuff already on the app. And these kind of generative models can handle that pretty easily.
Yeah, there's not a lot of small talk going on in your drive-thru order, so it's a lot easier to train to a menu. And I suppose it does free up hands and attention inside the restaurant to just keep working on the food part of the giving you your food.
Yeah, and I did get my food lightning fast, which is normal. But yeah, I know that a lot of people are going to think, wow, this is a way for those fast food organizations to reduce paying their workers. The smart ones won't do that. The smart ones will use it as a way to make sure your food is better prepared, tastier, and gets to you fast.
DTNS is made possible by you, the listener, thanks to Michelle Sergiu, Kirk Stephenson, Miranda Janelle, and new patrons Jordan, Sinjayan, and Raven.
Yay, new patrons! There's more we need to know today. Let's get right to the briefs.
Yesterday, we talked about the unboxing videos of the Pixel 9a that were leaked in what turns out to be a couple of days before the official announcement. As expected, it has a 6.3-inch OLED display with slightly wider bezels than the flagship Pixel, has a larger battery, and loses the camera bar. It also has a plastic back instead of Gorilla Glass and launches with Android 15 and 7 years of OS updates. It can also do Gemini Nano for local processing. The Pixel 9a starts at $499, shipping in April. Now, unfortunately, you can't actually order the Pixel 9a yet. In fact, review units haven't even been sent to the media yet. Google told The Verge, "We're checking on a component quality issue that's affecting a small number of Pixel 9a devices."
Two things. One, Good on them for not saying, oh, we have to have a ship date. We have to have a ship date or a pre-order date or whatever. Get that right so you don't have to do a recall. 2, how did all those unboxers get the 9As that turn out to actually be the 9As? And places like The Verge and Ars Technica did not. I'm very curious. Was that some kind of strategy to leak them out to influencers, and that's how they discovered the problem? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. The European Commission announced it has found Google and Apple in violation of the Digital Markets Act. Google is charged with continuing to prefer its own products on its platforms, which at its size is not allowed under the DMA. It is a gatekeeper, so it is not allowed to prefer its own products. Specifically, the EU said Google Play prevents developers from freely directing customers to alternatives to Google Play. Google hasn't commented on this. It also gave Apple a directive to improve interoperability in 9 features in iOS. I couldn't find a definitive list even on the EU site. But device manufacturers and app developers should be able to access peer-to-peer Wi-Fi connectivity. That's using Wi-Fi to share, not just connect to the internet. NFC features, like tap to pay and identification, notification handling, specifically for smartwatches, and device pairing. So the ability to pair by Bluetooth and things like that. Those were mentioned specifically. I'm not sure what exactly the 9 features were, but the idea is that Google, for example, should be able to use AirDrop to file transfer from Android to iOS. Apple said the directive will, quote, wrap us in red tape, slowing down Apple's ability to innovate for users in Europe.
I have slight sympathy for Apple and the big companies here.
Yeah.
I love the idea. Google should be able to use AirDrop. Why not? It's already there. But that is a lot of dev time. And that is dev time for a specific area that may or may not translate to other areas. And also are other areas going to start having their own custom bespoke things that now every iOS is different in every region.
Yeah. When you're dealing with features, you can't forget customer support cost. Mm-hmm. And your customer support cost goes up the more use cases you have, and this is going to multiply the use cases.
Thanks to Technomensch for pointing this one out on the subreddit. Wired announced it will no longer put articles behind its paywall if they are primarily based on public records obtained through the U.S. Freedom of Information Act. Wire has found itself more frequently publishing these kinds of articles, while the publication normally restricts users to a few articles per month for free.
That's interesting. The idea that they are seeing a public need for this, something that newspapers on the internet have done, where they say, well, these kinds of stories will not be behind our paywall. So glad to see Wired doing that. Counterpoint Research estimates the global shipments of VR headsets fell 12% year over year in 2024. That's the 3rd year of declines. Counterpoint says the enterprise market, when broken out separately, does better, but it also didn't share the numbers, so we don't know how much better. Meta finished the year with 84% of the market. So the Quest is the VR headset that people buy. Sony was in second place with 9% for the PSVR. The next 3 in market share were Pico, DPVR, and then Apple, in that order. Apple did a little better in Q3, but they really sunk in Q4. It really looks like smart glasses are the bigger growth opportunity than VR or even mixed reality headsets.
I had no idea Meta was that far in front. If you had asked me even this morning, I'd have guessed Sony was probably 15-20% across their 2 systems. But no, 9%.
I would have put the Quest close to 50%. I would have expected it to be pretty dominant. Maybe, 45, something like that. And I would have thought I was overestimating 84%. It's crazy.
Atari has released the Atari 2600 MyPlay watch that can play Centipede, Pong, Super Breakout, and Missile Command using the touchscreen or the watch's crown dial as a paddle controller. You can customize it with 2600 themed art and sound effects for when you're using it to tell time, like an actual watch. It can do other smartwatch features like track steps, calories, and heart rate, but it does not have Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, so there are no notifications. You can pre-order now for $79.99, shipping June 10th.
Wow, that's a decent price. I mean, granted, you got no internet.
It's a watch price, just a normal watch price.
But if you're really into Atari and you want the fun of, you're playing a game on a watch. It's not something you're going to do all the time, but it's nifty. I like it.
stops you from doom scrolling and sometimes people just want a dumb thing to be able to focus on what they're doing, and it's just a little cute and happy. And I am also a custom sound effects person on all of my things.
Oh yeah.
I have a coin noise for, some text messages from people, and my Mega Man theme is my alarm. I totally get it.
Yeah, this is a conversation starter, right? No, check out my watch. China's NIO is releasing its first Firefly branded EV on April 19th for around 50,000 yuan. That's $21,000 US approximately. Firefly will be able to use NIO's battery swap technology. That lets you quickly swap the car's drive battery for a freshly charged one, which right now anyway, until BYD's fast charging becomes ubiquitous, is faster than it would take to charge up the battery.
The United Video Game Workers Union launched at GDC. The Direct Join Union will accept video game workers, contractors, freelancers, indie developers, and more. The union is part of the Communications Worker of America and in partnership with the American Federation of Musicians.
Yeah, this is interesting. I like that they're announcing a union at GDC. That says a lot about where we are as a society. It is brand new. So there's a bit of a chicken and egg problem going on here, right? Like if you are a person who might want to join this union, you're not paying for a collective bargaining agreement yet. They don't have the ability. They don't have agreements to bargain with anybody yet. But to get that, you're going to need people to sign up. So they're going to have to do things like get on stage at GDC and try to get people excited about this.
Yes, it's the greatest way to get the word out. And it's also great to see it's a partnership. This is not some standalone, do we trust this? Is it real? No, this is real. They are talking to real people. They will give you access to real lawyers.
Yeah.
But it's super early.
Super early in the process. You're not immediately going to get a union pay raise out of this. And you may not for a long time. Finally, a few Microsoft notes. A gamepad keyboard is available for Windows 11 and is designed for typing using an Xbox controller. Recognizes the Xbox or the X button as backspace, Y is the space bar, menu is enter. This is meant to improve the experience on Windows-based gaming handhelds, so you can use the keyboard a little better without having to put the controller down. Also, you can now buy the Xbox Adaptive Joystick through the Microsoft Store for $29.99. Joystick helps gamers with limited mobility. It has customizable buttons and the option to 3D print accessories to customize controls. And Microsoft is partnering with Switzerland's INEAT to develop a model that simulates the reasoning ability of a mammal's brain. It has a brain programming language that can learn from experience and understand cause and effect. The first research from this company is on a mouse brain, but they believe they can simulate other mammals, including humans. Practical applications include finance and robotics.
I really appreciate Microsoft's commitment to these adaptive controllers. They've done it for a number of years now. It's not a fly-by-night thing just to get some press, and they make it affordable. $29.99, first of all, for any controller is bargain basement at this point. And I love the ability to 3D print accessories. Like, I've been on the fence about a 3D printer, but it's like, man, this is, I know the robotics of the future too, but being able to make your own stuff to work properly supported almost with these major consoles and major tech brands is this is a future I kind of like.
Yeah, Microsoft's done a really good job of continuing to support adaptability and accessibility this way. It's not just someone who doesn't have full control of their hands. It's people who don't have the ability to use their hands. So you can do neck control, mouth control, and you 3D print the accessory to be able to adapt that joystick to do that. It's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah. If you want to be slightly mercenary, they also know that the prime gaming market is getting older. And they would like us to continue to buy their games.
That's just true.
There's a couple more Google announcements. Parents in Australia, Spain, Poland, the UK, and US can now let their children access Google Wallet for library cards, event tickets, gift cards, and tap to pay, depending on what the parent allows. It cannot be used for online purchases. Also, as of today, you can use Gemini without logging into a Google account. Visit gemini.google.com in incognito mode to try it out.
Those are the essentials for today. We're going to dive a little deeper, though, with an ongoing story, that Pebble story in particular, following up.
The new Pebble OS watches from Core Devices were announced Tuesday, so Tom caught up with one of the biggest Pebble fans he knows, Brian Rushwood, to find out if he's on board for the next generation.
Brian, thanks for joining us.
Dude, what a momentous occasion. Sometimes they do come back, much like Pet Cemetery. We've got the Pebble.
Did you ever think you would see this again? I mean, I know they open sourced the operating system, so you might have figured somebody would make one, but it's Michigovsky himself.
As a matter of fact, if I was going to make any guess, a prediction 5 years ago, usually these things are built on a particular piece of hardware, but the hardcore fans keep it alive. If anything, I was hoping for maybe like an emulation scheme, like on another device. But I never thought the actual original Pebble would be back.
So for those who missed yesterday, there are two models. One is $149, ships in July, maybe. One is $225, ships in December, maybe. And maybe not only to the shipping dates, which might get delayed, but also the prices, because he said if tariffs go up and he has to raise the price, then he's going to raise the price and charge everybody more. But they are virtually the same as the 2016 Pebbles, the last time we saw them. E-ink screens. The battery life is 30 days now, not 7 days, because of the improvements to Bluetooth in the intervening years. But there's also some new chip stuff. The $225 one has some step and sleep tracking in it, but mostly it's the same Pebble, just with modern technology inside of it. And Brian, two things. First of all, give people your bona fides as a Pebble user, and then follow that up with, what do you think of the new ones?
Man, go back in time and go the way all the way back 10 years ago and see me on National Geographic's Hacking the System. I'm not wearing a Pebble, but I'm preemptively wearing a regular LCD smartwatch, or not even a smartwatch, just a watch that looked like it was going to be the Pebble that I was going to get. I didn't want to, I don't like anything that can be dated that's of a particular time, but at this point, the Pebble became so timeless that my beloved Pebble Time Steel I wore until it literally just died on me. I loved it because there were so many novel watch faces that I didn't have to worry about Greeking out the time whenever I was on video. There was the battery life was far and away the most significant thing. There was a lot of gee-whiz features, but ultimately Pebble won by virtue of being first. That's how you win in the market, is by being first. And then when it had competition, it was aggressively the antithesis of the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch was high fidelity, little miniature HD display with a touch screen and doodads. It was like a really, really crappy version of an iPhone on your wrist that would last about 20 minutes on battery. Whereas Pebble did two things that I cared about: stayed on for 7 days straight, and was able to get me notifications discreetly, not in this sweaty, grabby, screamy way that the Apple Watch did, where the moment you get a notification on Apple Watch, you had a window of 4 seconds to interrupt a conversation and only turn it on by putting your hand between you and the person you're speaking to. Pebble didn't do any of that, and it was extraordinary for it. Now, we get to the part where Pebble is back. And all of a sudden, its two big advantages are no longer unique. Now, yes, it does have the retro factor. It does have the heart of the original Pebble. It does have 4 or 5 times the battery life of it. And for that alone, I think a lot of people will go back. However, Tom, I've had a taste of the real sauce now. I've graduated into biometrics. I have now moved into the Garmin ecosystem, where I still get 30 days of battery life, where I still get always on display. Also, it tracks my sleep and it tells me what to do. Also, it has a flashlight built into it.
I don't think Pebble has a flashlight. Pebble is going to have the touchscreen, but you're right. It's not feature parity with Garmin devices. I think a lot of people miss that. That's a really good point. Michigovsky says, I am making these not to sell a ton of them, but because I think they need to exist. I don't think that's totally disingenuous, but I think he would like to see if there's enough enthusiasm and go from there. What would he have to do to win you out of the Garmin interface?
Lean into the quirkiness. This is usually the play. So oftentimes, whoever makes it to market first gets that dominance play, and Pebble had that. Oftentimes, another player comes in and overshadows them, becomes Coke to whatever predecessor to Coke there was, at which point they have to win by being punk rock and the opposite of whatever, Pepsi to their Coke. But now it's a quirky third body coming in. It's got to make the Dr. Pepper play. Don't be either Coke or Pepsi. Say, man, we don't even know what those weird cats are doing. We're Pebble. Be aggressively Pebble. Now, what does that look like? Maybe it means, much like we've seen diet smartphones that limit the amount of informational noise that you receive. That would be one way to do it. Discrete, timeless looks, put effort into low budget, essentially be the Swatch of smartwatches. I think that there's a lot of options there.
It's kind of what they're doing, though. They are being feature limited, not overwhelming you. They won't work as well with iOS, but that's not their fault. Otherwise, it's just about notifications. You know, they're not doing a multi-touch screen or anything like that. How much farther are they off from what you're describing, do you think?
I look forward to finding out. And to be honest, the right move. So when in doubt, figure out what the competition cannot do and lean heavily into it. Of course, Apple Watches are highly, highly structured on what they'll allow you to do. Garmin also has limits on what they'll do. There are some fan-driven apps, but for example, my favorite watch face was an unlicensed Fallout homage that looked like a Pip-Boy, and that got crushed because of, they need to keep everything aligned. Let Pebble users go crazy. Give every wonky thing. In fact, put together kits that make it astonishingly easy for people who don't think of themselves as Pebble programmers to program. I mean, what if they lean into LLM vibe coding? What if you just talked and described what you wanted the perfect watch face to look like, and suddenly it was there?
Well, and he does have a speaker in these things now so that you can talk to a chatbot. It's going to work better on Android, I'm sure. But it feels like they're just a couple of marketing steps away from what you're talking about. He is promoting the fact that it's hackable, so it's not too many leaps to go to like promoting community designs, but I guess you kind of need them out there before you can really promote those community designs. I look forward to checking back after these ship, whenever these are, and see how close to the mark they're getting, because it doesn't feel like they're that far off from what you're talking about.
I agree. And I really hope it's a huge success. And who knows, maybe I'll have my fancy going out and about smartwatch.
That's actually why I bought one, because I use an Apple Watch for all the biometrics and stuff that you're talking about. But I love the idea of a 30-day battery life. I love the idea of, being able to do a little bit of sleep tracking with a watch that I don't have to charge all the time. So I'm going to do an A/B test on those, and I'll report back to you. I'll let you know what I find out.
You know what? Wear one on each wrist. Let's make that a thing.
Yes. Bring back the dual watch,
dual wielding
watches. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us about this. If people want to find more of what you do these days, where should they go?
You know what? Follow my email list. Go to gimme.scamstuff.com. Technically, you'll be entering to win a doodad, but really you'll be on my email list, and we'll keep in touch. You can unsubscribe discreetly if I annoy you.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. If you would like to have a conversation with us, try out our Discord. You can join it by linking your Patreon account. Go to patreon.com/DTNS.
We end every episode of DTNS with your thoughts. Today, RW sums up his thoughts on our last show.
I love Roger's. This is Roger. The R is Roger. I love his summaries of our shows, folks. If you don't let him take all the glory, though. If you've got some insights on the story, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. RW writes, frosty. I think that's the weather right now in his part of Wales. Google/Alphabet is at a watershed, and I think this is a good move. That is buying Wiz. 2025. Be prepared for major changes this year. Spoons are taking steaks, gammon, and mixed grills off the menu. I believe that's the pub he often eats at. It is a new world. Welcome back, Pebble. Roku. Pa! That's regarding the ads on the home screen. Massive subscription fatigue in Ponty. Thank you so much, RW, for these. He does these every day. If you're a patron, you can read them yourself. They're fantastic, and he does it for multiple shows too. So keep an eye on those. Big thanks to Brian Brushwood and RW for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. It is made possible by our patrons at patreon.com/DTNS. We also have another show called DTNS Live. If you want to hang out and watch us live on YouTube or Twitch, you can find details about that at dailytechnewsshow.com. Talk to you tomorrow.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.